Thanks for joining us this morning. We're at the Kansas Beef office here in Topeka, and we just happen to be here during May, which happens to be Beef Month. Kevin, it's good to see you.
Thanks. Good to see you.
33rd year, the governor's, or not Governor Brownback, but this is the 33rd year that a governor in the state of Kansas has proclaimed May as Beef Month, and rightfully so. It's a huge portion of the agricultural receipts in the state.
Yeah, and always thankful that the governor takes time out of their day to help us celebrate. This year we were lucky enough to have Randall and Aaron Debler, and they're Wabaunsee County natives, and they have a cow-calf operation and very invested into the beef community. Member of our executive committee, and he and his family went and took a photo with the governor, just to kind of give everybody a visual, if you will, because that really is what the beef industry looks like, is family owned and family operated. So we're very proud of who we work for and what we do.
When we think about agriculture in the state of Kansas, about $7 billion, I think, is the total cash receipts for agriculture in the state. The beef industry makes up 56.8% of that, so well over half of the cash receipts. It's a huge industry. It
is a huge industry, and I think sometimes we forget the fact, Brian, that it's a huge industry that's local, and everywhere in the state of Kansas, those farmers and ranchers are they're involved in their local communities. They're paying taxes there in their local communities, and so very important for the state of Kansas. And I think the greatest asset we have is those families, because they're so invested in that local community. But Kansas is the third nationwide as far as feeding state, so we have a large feeding operations here in the state of Kansas, behind Nebraska and behind Texas, and we flip-flop kind of year in, year out with Nebraska, to where sometimes we're second or third. But it really works well for us to feed here in the state of Kansas, because we've got cropland, but we also have got native prairie that we can use for the cow herd. So really great dynamics here for the beef industry.
And I think you brought up 2 points there. One of them is family owned and operated, multiple generations. Family owned and operated, and young people coming in. I look at the Downies. I think about Barb and Joe, and think about their daughters coming back to the farm, as they get out of school and things like that, coming back to the farm. So passing it down, but bringing up tax base. Those farmers are buying their corn, soy meal, all those things from local producers in and around their area.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Downies, and we think about. Sustainability gets a lot of press nowadays, and I think we're lucky, because for us, I think we've been sustainable for a long time, because you think about those new generations entering the business, and we're doing that because we're caring for the land and caring for the cattle, and that's a message that at the Kansas Beef Council we've been really promoting, and there's a lot of power there.
Well, not only that, what was once great land is even better land now, and we can talk about that in the next segment. So when we come back, we'll finish up with our first part of a 4-part series with Kevin here at the Kansas Beef Council. You're watching Kansas Ag Report. We'll see you in just a minute.
This segment brought to you by the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. kansassoybeans.org. Kansas Beef. Celebrate beef all May during Beef Month. Kansas Wheat Commission. Leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association. Supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
Thanks for staying with us. We're at the Kansas Beef Council here in Topeka, and during Beef Month, we're joined by Kevin Thielin, who's the Executive Director of the Kansas Beef Council. Our first segment, we were talking about the face of Kansas beef. I mean, if you think about it, lots of families, multiple generations in the industry here in the state of Kansas. And we touched on sustainability, and I want to talk about that real quick, is because I think one thing that people don't understand is without continued sustainability in the industry here in the state of Kansas, we will not have an industry.
Right, and one of the things that the checkoff has done way back in 2009, 2010, 2011, is we did a life cycle analysis, and the checkoff is in the process of kind of updating that information. And again, we don't know what that data is going to say, but we would expect that we're going to see continued improvement. And so the reason that 2010 information was collected was just to give us a baseline. But obviously sustainability is something that ranchers do every day because they are so focused on that next generation. Right. And that's a powerful message for us to consumers. Just make sure that they understand that. And I think for the most part they do, but you just remind them of it.
Right. And one of the things that we were talking off camera during commercial break is some of the things you're doing with corn and soybeans as far as marketing to outside the Asian, basically, communities, not communities, but countries, on the importance of not only Kansas beef, but U.S. beef.
Yeah, and we're lucky that our board did a partnership with Kansas Corn and Kansas Soybean, targeting beef into Korea. Right. And we've seen a lot of upside, if you will, in the Korean market. They are actually adopting kind of cooking technologies that I think we would consider more KC barbecue or right. low and slow, and that in the last 2 years has really taken off over there. So with that, beef sales are kind of going up. Right. So we targeted chilled beef going into Korea and really saw a great response, and it's something that our board's going to look at this summer and trying to look at something for next year to see if we can do something similar with corn and beans. Well,
not only that, but you look at what Taiwan, Japan, Korea are doing. They're huge markets for U.S. beef.
Huge markets, and honestly, Brian, I think the future really does lie in exports. About $280 per animal, per beef animal. That value comes from export markets, so it's a huge opportunity. And the one thing I think people need to remember is a lot of times the cuts that we're exporting are cuts that may not have a lot of value here. Tongue, liver, things like that. But
tail, which just happens to be one of my favorites, yeah. By the way.
But in Egypt or places like that, huge value, and it's something that they're very used to. So a lot of opportunity in export markets.
Perfect. We're going to continue with Kevin. You'll see him next week as well. So as we finish out May and Beef Month, you're watching Kansas Ag Report, and we'll see you in just a minute.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Beef. Celebrate beef all May during Beef Month.
If you would like to advertise your business on Kansas Ag Report, give us a call, 785-580-3287.